Hey, how you doing? I'm Devin Allen here at the BMA, interviewing some of my friends and family for the new hip hop show that's coming. I hope you love it. Just want to sit down and talk about the influence of Baltimore has in the hip hop space. We here, hip hop show, dropping soon at the BMA. Who am I sitting with today?
DDM, Dapper Dan Midas, Midas if you know me from a certain time, Uncle Lulu if you know me from a certain time. I had like 800 name changes, but it's DDM.
Yeah. So we here for the hip hop show, and working with the BMA, I want to sit down with some of my favorite people, and just talk about hip hop, have a conversation about, how it has affected Baltimore. Baltimore, when people think about hip hop, they sometimes forget us. But, we party hard and we have some amazing music from our house music to club music, all the stuff that's evolved that you can see in our raps. But for me, I remember growing up, going to Hammerjack, going to Paradox, the Tunnel, partying, hearing my favorite songs, club dancing, Crazy Legged, SpongeBob, and Down the Hill. And, what was your, you go to the club or you young, what was you doing back in the day, your earliest hip hop memory?
Oh man, my earliest hip hop memory in Baltimore was the 5 Seasons.
Ooh, 5 Seasons. One way in, one way out. I've been to 5 Seasons.
One way out. It was the Wild Wild West. It was a rogues gallery of dope dealers, rappers, street people, beautiful women, and danger. And it was the best place ever. I loved it.
5 Seasons.
It's the 5
that
Seasons.
Parking lot, right across from the jail.
Oh
so
my
you
God.
fight at 5 Seasons.
You get locked up, you go to Central Booking.
They walk you to the jail.
Yes, absolutely. That was my earliest time. I'll never forget, I had caught the subway from Rogers Station because I'm from Northwest Baltimore. And I had rode down to like State Center or something like that and walked over to the 5 Seasons. It was one of those like One Love battles.
Oh,
and
One Love.
It was my first battle and I went by myself. My sneakers were dirty, my hair wasn't cut. I looked a mess, but I know I could rap. And I had listened to, at the time, Rod Digger, Dirty Harriet album the whole way down to get myself amped up. Went there. And I wound up getting all the way to the end. And that's what I love about hip hop, is that you don't have to have anything if you are good enough, especially in that arena, in the battle arena. You can actually make a name for yourself with next to nothing. Yeah.
Baltimore, wow, One Love, that brings back memories. Like that, fashion, hip hop. One Love, you think about acoustic, Samos, all these iconic, clothing lines that a lot of people used to rock. But, what's crazy, now you look at the resurgence of club music, and when they talk about club music, they talk about Baltimore, New Jersey.
Yes.
In that space, for me, Baltimore club, it was like that's where you heard your local and your best artists. You had to be there if you wasn't there.
Yes.
So you know about the DVDs and the burning of the CDs. And
yes.
Let's talk about this case right here. Because I remember, I'm from Northwest Baltimore too, but I remember walking to the corner store. If it's, because I'm from Garrison, I would walk to the corner store, or I went to church up Emerson Village, and I would walk and look for my bootleg man.
Yes.
Right? And
yes.
and you would buy your CD, because you didn't want to go to, remember, Camelot, FYE.
It's too high,
it's $12.99 for a CD.
Well, that was cheap. It was really like $17, $18.
Yeah, they fluctuated, but the bootleg CD, that whole era of hip hop and just getting it from your bootleg man, burning your old CDs, LimeWire, getting your mixtapes. Let's talk. You got a CD case.
Well, yeah, I bought a CD case, and I didn't think it would be such a relic. But the people tell me that these are like relics now, and so this CD case is basically all of. At that time, when I first started in the early 2000s, it's not like today where you go in and everything is digital. You would go in and record, and they would have to burn your mixes to a CD, and your actual session was burnt onto a DVD or a CD. And I came across this morning before I came in, and it has actually the first record I ever recorded, ever. It was at Frank Johnson's studio, shout out to Frank, at Track Kings. It was on Valentine's Day 2004.
Oh, wow.
It was a freestyle to Keith Murray's Yeah, Yeah, You Know It beat.
Keith Murray.
And I was looking through this case and I started crying because I could see my life. I could see all of the records. When I look at some of these records, I see the records I made with dope dealers who invested in me. I see the records I made when I first came out and I had to kind of do it myself again. These CDs tell a story of my life that I did not anticipate. And so coming across this and just seeing how we lived, it's also kind of, in my own way, a tracking of my history, because some of these CDs have records with rappers from the area who are dead now. Some of them are, have moved to other places. They're working in totally different industries. So it's kind of like a yearbook, so to speak, of Baltimore hip hop that to the rest of the world, they'd say, well, who are these people? But to me, it is really a memory of my life,
No, I love that. You talk about 2004, what would, hip hop, you touched on a lot of this, but, hip hop had obviously influenced the world and us and helped shape us. But let's talk about 2004 fashion. What did you have on? Because you stay fly, I know you. And people don't know you, DDM is one of the flyest rappers in the city, he throws it on. But let's talk about what you was wearing in 2004. I know 2004 for me, I was probably wearing a long white tee with some Jabot jeans, and I probably had on some Air Force or some, we call them dope dealers, but other people know them as foam posits. The Nike foam posit called the dope dealer. It was one of the most expensive shoes I ever purchased with my own money. $200 for a shoe, but I was wearing a white tee, and I probably had a New Era fitted on.
Yes, New York, and you're not from New York.
And I'm not, but I had to fit it on, and then the brim was low, with an oversized tee that came down to almost my knee. Galaxy tee that I got from Shoe City.
Yes.
What was you rocking in 2004?
Pretty much the same goddamn thing. But, you had your Nietzsche, and that's one thing I love about this period is that you had a lot of Black-owned fashion brands. A lot of these brands, Nietzsche, RP55, Mecca, Fat Farm, Sean John, Rockaware, Nelly even had a brand, and it was,
the G Unit.
Yeah,
the G Unit. You had S.
Carter's.
I didn't like them, but I didn't like
not the key. Like from a fashion.
You ain't wear the beat. I hated when I seen people with the 50 Cent beaters.
Oh, I hated those. And you don't have a 50 Cent body, and it's just like too much. But no, what I loved about this period was that, and like, I used to go to Changes, which are not in outline, and you
bring it back. Changes,
yes,
J5.
Old Mondawmin, Old Mondawmin. And you go there, you might get robbed leaving, so make sure you get in there and get out. Had a ride waiting outside. If you got to catch the subway, then you go with a group of friends. And at that time, I wore the Jabot jeans, you would save up your money because Jabot jeans at that time was like almost $100, but they had the pockets on the front, and you wear the big Galaxies, some nice high top Air Force Ones, white, not black, no shade, but like you had the fresh white ones, and you wore the fitted. I didn't wear fitted since I had a fat face, so it didn't work for me. But that was pretty much the fashion. It's interesting seeing the evolution of fashion in hip hop, especially in Baltimore, because the very eccentric people who live here tend to leave because this is I always tell people Baltimore is a small town masquerading as a big city. And when you look at the story of fashion here, you have some very original people, but in the hip hop sphere, hip hop is a culture. So I can literally chart hip hop through the fashion in Baltimore. When Kanye West hit in 2007, you saw the polo, the jeans became skinnier. And now when you look at the kids now, they all look alt and emo and things like that. It's just different. It changes.
I sat down with Nathan, who played Donut on the Wire. He was stealing colors. One of my, I'm a fan of the music, Omar's Ballad, right? I think The Wire had a big impact on hip hop. You know, you
Yes.
can hear bars where people say, I'm crouching, King Von, I'm crouching up on him like Snoop off The Wire, You know, let's talk about Baltimore's impact on hip hop. You know, you did Omar's Ballad, everybody, Omar's coming. You know, Baltimore's a part of that culture. Let's talk about that, your music and how Baltimore has influenced that. You being from Baltimore and you're expanding outside of the city.
You know, it's interesting because I remember when The Wire was happening, there was an excitement. And if you were an artist at that time, you know, Comp was signed to Def Jam at that time.
Comp,
And,
yes.
you know, Boss Man is signed to Virgin with Jermaine Dupri. So there was a really big sense of hope. Also during The Wire, Amsterdam had did the soundtrack to The Wire where it was all Baltimore artists. So there is record of that. But I think The Wire is one of those things where people love the idea and the cosign of Baltimore, but they don't want to really deal with the rappers and the real realities of what it takes to display that on a national television show. And so for me, I see Baltimore in so many things from a street perspective. We're very real here. You know, and it's no hiding from us. We are very much, if we like you, we like you. If we don't, we don't, and you're going to know it. And that's something that a lot of our kids, and it's something I've learned is I have been able to get my music into other places and perform in different regions and do short films and, you know, commercials and things like that. But a lot of our kids are too true. And I had such a romantic relationship with show business and hip hop at large. And a lot of our kids, because their life is real, they view the music as real. And when they leave here and they go into these big arenas and major markets, they get very gaslit and they can't cope with the fact that these people that you see are not real. None of this is real. But they're real. So when they're rapping about street shit, it's real. And they can't cope with the fact that this person who they like and they want to work with is phony and didn't call them back. And so that creates this reputation of Baltimore being violent, being unruly, they're savages. No, they're just a blue-collar city of real people who are trying to make it in a world that is not really designed for that.
I love that, you know, how you describe Baltimore as being real, because when you think about it, that's what hip hop is the experience, you know. And like you said, you know, rap started off as a way to, you know, talk about that reality. For us, you know, it's coping, it's revealing, it's all these different things. You know, for you, you're an amazing artist. Like, you know, what was the artist that touched you the most, though? You know, for me, you know, depending on where I'm at in life, there's certain artists and rappers that I listen to. I know growing up, you know, Lil Wayne was the GOAT to me. You know, seeing a young black man that young running around bling blinging with the OGs. You know, Wayne was my favorite rapper growing up. Also because he rapped about what I was seeing and what I was going through. You know, and then eventually I graduated. I was a big Boosie fan. Early Boosie, before he went to jail, early Boosie. I had a Boosie fade. I started cutting my hair like little Boosie. I had a Boosie fade, but at one point, I'm locking my hair back, but I got dreads because of Wayne. You know, and then I remember Knuckle for Your Butt came out. Coming to the club, shaking my dreads, throwing these bowls, busting these heads. You know, rap is intertwined with everyday life. But what was that rapper that you connected to? You was like, yo, this person is talking directly to me or for me.
Lil' Kim.
Lil' Kim? On Dot, that's my favorite Lil' Kim song.
Great record,
that's my favorite Lil' Kim song.
Kim, to me, is very important because at the time when I first started rapping, I was closeted. And I was from Northwest, and I was very rough around the edges. And there was no representation. The kids now, they have people that they can at least point to and kind of it'll steer them in the right supermarket. Maybe not the right aisle, but at least you're in the right store. And the importance of the female rapper to me is that they served, especially those girls in the late 90s, they served as avatars for people like me because I could not see myself in the content or the extravagance. Female rappers at the time were very extravagant. They were very ostentatious, and they were all very unique in their presentation. Each girl looked different, each girl felt different, each girl sounded different. And so when you look at Kim, even though her rhyme scheme, because what I love about that era, that bad boy era, is when you listen to Big's flow, when you listen to Kim's flow, it is an instrument. Like, if Peter Piper pecked him, I bet you Biggie bust him. He probably tried to fuck him. I told him not to trust him. That's a jazz line, and that's how they're rapping. And so when I saw Kim, she taught me about sex. She taught me about being brave. I could have never went into those battles, and I was battling dope dealers, street guys, gang members. I was not with weak bitches when I first started, okay? So, and people are always surprised when I say I was listening to Kim, I was listening to Rod Digger, I was listening to Eve. And so all of those ladies really helped give me the courage to go into some of the toughest arenas in the city and do it. So for me, Little Kim is the alpha and omega of who I am. She is artistically the mother of the DNA of who I am as an artist.
That's Kim is definitely, she's one of my favorite rappers. My mom was bumping Kim. Like I said, on Dot, my homegirl put me on with that. I'm like, oh, she's spitting, storyteller. Back to Baltimore, we talking about the hip hop queens, the Eves, the Diggers, all those people. Baltimore, when it comes to women, I always think about K Swift, Club Queen. And when I thought about the BMA and working on this project with them, I was like, I really want to, use this platform to talk about Baltimore and how hip hop has influenced us, but also how we have influenced it. So you got the aux cord, right? You ride around with Kim, right? With Lil' Kim. You in the car with Lil' Kim. And she say, yo, play me something from Baltimore that we gonna turn up to. What are you putting on? You gotta pick one song. You got the aux cord, you in the car, you with Lil' Kim. I don't know, y'all on the way to a concert or something, I don't know. But Kim say, grab the aux cord, I wanna hear something from your city.
From Baltimore hip hop or anything Baltimore?
It's the hip hop show. Give me a rap, hip hop, something in that realm. It could be R&B too. Okay. We got all that is intertwined together. What you throwing on that Bluetooth, that aux cord, you got a CD. You got one CD and you got to pop it in. What you putting in?
And I can only pick one.
Only can pick one. All right, give me one song, and if it's an album, like for me, like. For instance, like G-Rock, Emerson Village, rest in peace. But his first album was like, I think I want to hustle again, But you got a CD out of here. You can pick an album and a song. I give you that. I give you an album and a song.
Oh Jesus, Jesus! Can I substitute an album for 2 songs?
I give you that.
Okay. Paula Campbell, How Does It Feel?
Ooh, how does it feel? Classic.
And Smash, A Bit Too Much for Me.
See, now you about to make me cry on stage. Smash was one of my good friends, man.
Kind.
When you hear his voice, you would think he would be like,
hey,
husky,
baby.
Hey, baby, I am mine, got you hypnotized.
Yes.
One of the GOATs.
Yes.
2 amazing, Paula Campbell, you picked 2 amazing songs, man. Thank you for sitting down with me.
Absolutely.
It was amazing. You a hip hop artist from Baltimore. What projects are you kicking out though, before you leave the stage?
Before I leave the stage,
You
well,
you give me some. You picked the 2 Baltimore songs. We need a song from you.
that I'm
That
putting
you
out,
made. We want whoever see this to go listen to DDM.
probably He Say, She Say,
Okay.
and probably Boys Don't Cry off the Ballad of Omar.
I love that. I love that. So yeah, go listen to DDM.
Yes.
The GOAT. My guy. Appreciate you, fam. Thanks for coming through.
Thank you so much. Always a pleasure, Dave.